Welcome back to the Deep Dive from BookCast FM.
Where we're all about bringing books to life, one cast at a time.
Today, we're jumping into a really influential book, one that's definitely changed how people think about strategy.
That's right. We're talking about Blue Ocean Strategy by W. Chan Kim and Renée Mauborgne.
And this is our deep dive. We're going beyond a simple summary, really aiming to pull out the core knowledge, the key insights for you.
Exactly. We've really immersed ourselves in this one to give you a detailed, comprehensive look. If you're someone who wants to grasp important ideas quickly, but also thoroughly, this is for you.
We want to give you those aha moments without the information overload. Think of this as your focus guide to understanding Blue Ocean strategy.
So the central idea, maybe we start there.
Yeah, let's do that. The book contrasts two concepts, red oceans and blue oceans.
Right. Red oceans are, well, red because they're full of competition, sharks circling, everyone fighting over the same existing market space. It can get pretty bloody.
Crowded, competitive, we all know what that feels like. But then they talk about blue oceans.
And these are the untapped market spaces. Clear, open, uncontested. It's about creating new demand, not fighting over the old demand.
So the goal isn't to beat the competition in the red ocean.
No, the goal is to make the competition irrelevant by creating your own blue ocean.
How do you do that, though? That sounds great, but how?
Well, the engine for this is what they call value innovation. That's the cornerstone.
Value innovation. Okay, break that down.
It's about pursuing differentiation and low cost simultaneously.
Okay. So breaking that traditional trade-off, where you assume you either have high value at high cost or low value at low cost.
Precisely. Value innovation means you figure out how to drive costs down while also driving value up for buyers. It's a leap in value, not just an incremental improvement.
That's a powerful idea. And they talk about strategic moves, right? Not just small tweaks.
Exactly. Strategic moves are the actions, the decisions that unlock these blue oceans. They redefine industry boundaries, create whole new demand curves.
And to help companies actually do this, they offer some tools, frameworks.
Oh yeah, very practical tools. There's the strategy canvas, which helps you visualize the current competitive space.
Okay, like a map of the industry.
Sort of, yeah. It shows what factors everyone competes on. Then there's the 4 actions framework.
4 actions.
Eliminate, reduce, raise, create, often shown in an ERRC grid. It helps you systematically rethink which factors to change to create that new value curve.
Eliminate, reduce, raise, create. Got it. Any others?
And the 6 paths framework. That one's about looking beyond traditional market boundaries to find blue ocean opportunities. Looking across alternative industries, strategic groups, that kind of thing.
Okay, so there's a real methodology here. It's not just a concept.
Definitely. And some core themes run through the whole book, like don't compete, create, focus on the big picture, not just the numbers initially.
Right, and reaching beyond your existing customers to find non-customers.
Yes, and getting the strategic sequence right, making sure the utility, price, cost, and adoption all line up.
And they also talk about the internal challenges, right? Overcoming hurdles inside the company.
Absolutely crucial. Things like organizational politics, resource constraints, getting people motivated, and building execution right into the strategy from the start.
So the big takeaways are pretty profound then. It's not just about temporary advantages.
No, it's about finding sustainable, uncontested market space. It really requires breaking that competitive mindset.
And understanding the impact of doing value and cost innovation together.
They have some fantastic quotes that really capture it, like, the only way to beat the competition is to stop trying to beat the competition.
Simple but powerful.
Or value innovation is about making the competition irrelevant. That really sums it up.
Yeah, and others like companies need to go beyond competing, or blue oceans are right next to you. It changes your perspective.
Instead of focusing on beating the competition, focus on making the competition irrelevant. That's another good one.
And strategy is not about plans. It's about creating value and how demand is created in blue oceans, not fought over.
And that key idea again. Successful companies pursue differentiation and low costs simultaneously. It's the bedrock.
Okay, let's dive a bit deeper, maybe starting with the introduction. They lay out the core concept there.
Right. The intro really sets the stage by challenging traditional competition-based strategy. They argue it's just not enough anymore in many industries.
Because those red oceans are getting too crowded, too competitive.
Exactly, leading to shrinking profits, commoditization. So they clearly define red oceans, existing markets, known rules, fierce competition.
And contrast that sharply with blue oceans, the unknown market space, untainted by competition, where you create demand.
And again, they introduce value innovation, right away is the key. Driving costs down while driving value up.
Not a trade-off.
Not a trade-off.
Yeah.
They explicitly say the creation of blue oceans is about driving costs down while simultaneously driving value up for buyers.
And competition is not the benchmark. Value innovation is. It's a real mindset shift.
And they give that great early example, Cirque du Soleil.
Ah, yes, the classic example. How did they fit the model?
Well, they didn't try to be a better traditional circus. They eliminated things like animal acts and star performers, reduced other elements, but raised the artistic quality, added themes, music.
Creating something new.
Exactly. A blend of circus and theater that appealed to a whole new audience. Adults, corporate clients who wouldn't typically go to a traditional circus. They created a blue ocean.
Okay, moving into chapter 1, creating blue oceans. What's the focus there?
It builds on the intro, really digging into the limitations of staying stuck in those mature red ocean industries.
The diminishing returns you mentioned.
Yeah, price wars, commoditization. They argue the focus has to shift to creating and capturing new demand. And that comes from value innovation, redefining the market boundaries, not just tweaking things.
They bring in more examples here too, right?
Yes, Cirque du Soleil again, but also CNN. Before them, news was appointment viewing. CNN created the 24-hour news cycle, a completely new market dynamic.
And Southwest Airlines.
Classic example. They didn't compete directly with the big legacy airlines on all the same factors. They offered cheap, no-frills, point-to-point flights.
More like competing with cars or buses than other airlines initially.
Exactly. And NetJets, with fractional jet ownership, they opened up private air travel to a whole segment that couldn't afford to buy a whole jet.
So the message is that industries aren't fixed. Companies can change them.
Definitely. They emphasize that industry structure isn't set in stone. And interestingly, they say blue oceans are seldom created by technological innovation per se.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just about having the newest tech.
Not necessarily. It's often about linking technology to what buyers value, applying innovation, tech or otherwise, in a way that creates that leap in value.
While also driving down costs.
Always both. Driving costs down while simultaneously driving value up for buyers. It keeps coming back to that.
So the actionable takeaway from chapter 1 is...
Stop obsessing over competitors. Look for what customers and potential non-customers really value. Find that latent demand.
Okay, then chapter 2 gets into the how, the tools and frameworks.
Right. This is where it gets very practical. First up is the strategy canvas.
The visual map we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. It grabs the key factors an industry competes on and where different players invest or perform on those factors. You map your own company and your competitors.
And what does that show you?
It immediately highlights where the industry converges, where everyone is doing the same thing. And more importantly, it helps you see potential divergence, where you could create a new value curve.
Like the Cirque du Soleil example, showing how different their curve looked compared to traditional circuses.
Precisely. They say the canvas captures the current state of play and shows how a company can break away. It makes the need for change visible.
Okay, so that's the diagnostic tool. What about the tool for creating the new curve?
That's the 4 actions framework we mentioned. Eliminate, reduce, raise, create.
Right. Can you give an example of how that works?
Think about Yellowtail wine, another great case study they use. What did they eliminate?
Maybe the complex wine terminology, the snobbery, maybe?
Exactly. Eliminated the intimidating aspects. What did they reduce? Things like the emphasis on aging, the use of oak, the complexity of the range.
Okay, and raise?
They raised the ease of drinking, the simplicity of choosing, the fun, fruity flavor profile.
And create. What was new?
They created a sense of adventure and ease, branding it in a really approachable way.
Yeah.
Made it easy for non-wine drinkers like beer drinkers to jump in.
So by doing those 4 things, they broke the trade-off.
Absolutely. They created a fun, accessible wine differentiation at a low price point, low cost. The ERC grid is just a simple table to capture these actions.
It systematically forces you to rethink the industry's assumptions.
Yes. As they say, company can systematically pursue value innovation by reconstructing buyer value elements. It's a structured way to innovate value.
Makes sense. So chapter 3 builds on this idea of rethinking boundaries, reconstruct market boundaries.
Yes, this chapter tackles how we often limit ourselves by thinking only within our defined industry or competitive set.
We get tunnel vision.
Exactly. So they introduce the 6 paths framework to help you systematically look beyond those conventional boundaries.
6 paths. Okay, what are they?
Path 1. Look across alternative industries. What else do customers use to fulfill the same basic need, like movies versus restaurants for an evening out?
Okay, so understand why they choose one over the other.
Right. Path 2. Look across strategic groups. Think luxury cars versus economy cars. Can you create value that appeals across these groups?
Interesting. Path 3.
Look across the chain of buyers. Who influences the purchase? Who uses it? Who pays? Shifting focus, like pharma focusing more on patients instead of just doctors.
Right, the influencer versus the end user.
Path 4. Look across complementary product and service offerings. What happens before, during, and after your product is used? Can you add value there? Like the restaurant adding valet parking.
Makes the whole experience better.
Path 5. Look across functional or emotional appeal. Does your industry compete mainly on price and features, or on feelings and aspiration? Can you shift that, like Swatch making watches fashion items?
Turning functional into emotional.
And Path 6. Look across time. What major trends are unfolding? Can you shape the future market by anticipating and addressing emerging needs, like embracing environmental trends early?
So these paths are like different lenses to find hidden opportunities.
Exactly. They aren't you. The more you think along conventional boundaries, the less likely you are to create a blue ocean. And new market space is often hidden in plain sight.
Any examples for the 6th path?
Kerr's Fitness used Path 5, shifting the gym experience from intimidating, functional, to supportive and community-focused, emotional for women. NetJets looked across buyer groups, Path 3, and alternatives, Path 1, commercial versus owning a jet.
So it's about broadening your perspective systematically.
Precisely.
Okay, chapter 4. Focus on the big picture, not the numbers. This seems counterintuitive for business strategy.
It does initially, but their point is that getting lost in detailed spreadsheets and competitor benchmarks too early can stifle the kind of creative, big-picture thinking needed for blue oceans.
So vision first, then details.
Yes. They advocate for visualizing strategy using a 4-step process.
Okay, what are the steps?
Step 1 is visual awakening. Using the strategy canvas to see where you are versus competitors, creating that shared understanding of why change is needed.
Getting everyone on the same page about the current reality.
Step 2, visual exploration. Going out into the field, talking to non-customers, exploring alternatives, getting real-world insights, not just relying on reports.
Boots on the ground.
Step 3, visual strategy fair. Drawing up different potential future strategy canvases based on the exploration, and then getting feedback on them from stakeholders, employees, customers.
Like testing out different strategic hypotheses visually.
Exactly. It's iterative. You refine the vision based on feedback.
And the final step.
Step 4, visual communication. Once you have the chosen future strategy canvas, you communicate it clearly and visually throughout the organization. It becomes the guidepost.
So the visual aspect is key for alignment and understanding.
Absolutely. They say drawing a strategy canvas leads companies to discover how they can break away and emphasize. Focus on the big picture first. Numbers come later.
Like Southwest's focus on speed, price, convenience, a clear, visualizable strategy.
Or Callaway Golf's Big Bertha driver, they visually explored why non-golfers were intimidated and designed a club to address that specific visual and functional barrier.
Got it. Now, Chapter 5, reach beyond existing demand. This seems crucial for creating new markets.
It really is. This shifts the focus from fighting over existing customers to attracting people who aren't currently buying in your market, the non-customers.
How do they define these non-customers?
They break them into 3 tiers. First tier, soon-to-be non-customers on the edge of your market, minimally using current offerings ready to jump ship.
Okay, the ones who aren't very loyal.
Second tier, refusing non-customers who consciously choose against your market's offerings. They see the options but reject them.
They've actively opted out.
And third tier, unexplored non-customers in distant markets who have never even considered your industry's offerings as an option for them. This is often the biggest group.
Wow. Okay, so how do you target these different tiers?
The key isn't to target each tier separately, but to look for the commonalities across them. What are the shared reasons they aren't customers? What key factors are turning them off?
So find the shared pain points or unmet needs.
Exactly. As they put it, the key to unlocking new demand is to find out what factors alienate non-customers and then eliminate them.
It's about asking why they refuse, not just how to serve current customers better.
Yes, a fundamental shift in questioning. Yellowtail did this by targeting people put off by traditional wine complexity. JCDecaux reached unexplored non-customers for outdoor ads by using street furniture.
Thinking beyond the existing customer base unlocks that new demand.
That's the core idea.
Okay, Chapter 6. Get the strategic sequence right. This sounds like execution comes into play.
It absolutely does. A brilliant blue ocean idea isn't enough if you can't make it commercially viable. There's a specific sequence they recommend.
What's the sequence?
4 steps. Buyer utility, then price, then cost, then adoption.
Okay, start with buyer utility.
Does the idea offer exceptional utility? Is it genuinely useful and easy to use? Does it remove major pain points for the customer across their whole experience? Purchase, use, disposal?
They have a tool for this too.
Yes, the buyer utility map. It helps analyze the customer experience cycle and pinpoint blocks to utility that can be eliminated or opportunities to enhance it.
So first, make sure it's actually valuable to the buyer. Then price.
Right. Is the price accessible to the target mass of buyers? Is it set strategically to attract volume quickly but also make it hard for competitors to copy easily?
Strategic pricing, not just cost plus.
Definitely. Then comes cost. Can you actually produce the offering at a target cost that allows you to be profitable at that strategic price?
Yeah.
This often requires cost innovation too.
You need the cost structure to support the value proposition and price.
Exactly. And finally, adoption. What are the hurdles to customers actually embracing this new thing? Fear, inertia, stakeholder resistance. You need a plan to overcome these.
So utility, price, cost, adoption.
Yeah.
In that order.
Yes. They stress that great strategies are not born from great ideas alone, but from ensuring the right strategic sequence is followed. Dyson's vacuum is a good example. Great utility, premium but justifiable price, protected by patents, helping adoption, deterring imitation.
And Netflix's original DVD model, huge utility leap, compelling flat rate price.
Perfect examples of getting the sequence right.
Okay, Chapter 7 moves inside the organization. Overcome key organizational hurdles.
Yes, because even with the right strategy and sequence, internal resistance can kill a blue ocean initiative.
What kind of hurdles are we talking about?
They identify 4 main ones. First, the cognitive hurdle. People are stuck in the status quo. They don't see the need for a major shift.
We've always done it this way.
Exactly. Second, the resource hurdle. Even if people see the need, they think, we don't have the money or people to do this. Resources seem scarce.
That's a common one.
Third, the motivational hurdle. Getting people energized and committed to act on the new strategy, especially when it requires effort and change.
Inertia and lack of buy-in.
And fourth, the political hurdle. Opposition from powerful individuals or groups who feel threatened by the change or have vested interests in keeping things as they are.
Internal politics. So how do you tackle these?
They propose tipping point leadership. Instead of trying to change everyone at once, focus your efforts on factors of disproportionate influence.
Okay, like leverage points.
Exactly. For the cognitive hurdle, make key people confront the need for change directly. Maybe by meeting unhappy customers or seeing operational problems firsthand, experiential, not just data.
So don't just tell.
For resources, concentrate your existing resources on the hotspots activities with the biggest potential payoff and shift them away from cold spots.
Strategic allocation.
For motivation, focus on the kingpins, key influencers in the organization. Recognize their contributions, put them in a fishbowl so their actions are visible, and break down the challenge into manageable chunks, atomization. Debate the influencers.
And for politics, identify your angels, supporters, and build coalitions, and identify your devils, opponents, and undermine their ability to block progress.
Build alliances and manage opposition.
The core idea is focusing limited resources and political capital where they'll have the biggest impact to overcome inertia, like the NYPD example they use.
Right, focusing on specific high-crime areas and key personnel changes.
Exactly. Tipping point leadership.
Then Chapter 8, build execution into strategy.
Yeah.
How is this different from overcoming hurdles?
It's about proactively embedding commitment and cooperation into the strategy development process itself, not just dealing with resistance after the fact.
Okay, how do you do that?
Through what they call FAIR process. This is crucial. It's about the process used to make and implement decisions.
Fair process. What does that involve? 3 core principles: engagement, explanation, and expectation clarity.
Engagement.
Involving people in decisions that affect them, asking for their input, letting them challenge ideas. It builds buy-in.
Explanation.
Clearly explaining why final decisions are made the way they are. Even if people don't get their preferred outcome, understanding the reasoning builds trust.
So transparency about the rationale.
And expectation clarity, making sure everyone knows the new rules of the game, the standards, responsibilities, and consequences clearly laid out up front.
No ambiguity about what's expected.
When these 3 are present, people perceive the process as fair. And that perception is incredibly powerful.
How so?
It leads to trust and commitment. People are more willing to cooperate voluntarily, go the extra mile, and support the strategy even if it involves personal sacrifice. They say fair process build execution into strategy.
Because people feel respected and understood.
Precisely. People are willing to accept outcomes, even unfavorable ones, if they believe that the process is fair. Samsung and Nissan's turnarounds are cited as examples where fair process played a key role.
So it's about how you strategize, not just what the strategy is.
Absolutely integrated.
Okay, almost there. Chapter 9, Renew Blue Oceans. So blue oceans don't last forever.
Unfortunately, no. Success attracts imitators, markets evolve. So you can't just create one blue ocean and rest. You need to think about renewal.
What do they suggest for renewal?
2 main strategies. First, monitor and defend your current blue ocean. Keep an eye on competitors, watch market trends, and continually refresh your value curve to stay ahead.
Keep innovating within the space you created.
Right. But second, and perhaps more importantly, is to actively look for opportunities to create new blue oceans. Don't get complacent.
So it's a cycle. Create, defend, then create again.
Exactly. Build a capability for ongoing blue ocean creation. Recognize when your current advantage is fading and be ready to launch the next initiative.
Don't rest on your laurels.
That's the message. Renewal is essential. Think of Apple moving from iPod to iPhone to iPad, continuous renewal and creation of new blue oceans. Cirque du Soleil constantly evolves its shows.
It requires ongoing vigilance and innovation.
Yes, it's a dynamic process.
Finally, Chapter 10. Avoid red ocean traps. What are the common mistakes people make?
This is a great wrap-up chapter, highlighting pitfalls. One trap is thinking it's only about technology innovation.
We touched on that. It's about value innovation.
Right. Another is seeing blue ocean strategy as just for niche markets. Real blue oceans often aim for mass appeal.
Okay, what else?
Equating it only with differentiation and forgetting the low-cost side. Or only focusing on low cost without the differentiation leap in value. You need both.
The value innovation principle again?
Thinking you need to invent a whole new industry. Often blue oceans are created within or adjacent to existing ones by reconstructing boundaries.
And probably the biggest trap.
Maybe overlooking execution? Forgetting about the hurdles, fair process, the strategic sequence. Having a great idea isn't enough.
So you need the whole package. The right mindset, the tools, the sequence, and the execution focus.
Exactly. They remind us, blue ocean strategy is about reconstructing market boundaries, not competing within them. And value innovation is the cornerstone.
Examples like Tesla now facing more competition, or Uber's challenges as ride-sharing became a red ocean, show why avoiding these traps is crucial.
It's an ongoing challenge.
Wow, okay. So wrapping this up, Blue Ocean Strategy really offers a powerful alternative framework.
It absolutely does. Shifting focus from competition to value creation, from dividing existing demand to creating new demand in uncontested space. It's quite transformative if applied correctly.
And hopefully this deep dive has given you, our listeners, a really solid, comprehensive grasp of those core ideas, the tools, the whole philosophy behind it. We've tried to be accurate and cover the key insights.
We really encourage you to think about these concepts. How might value innovation apply in your world, your industry, your work?
Yeah, reflect on where the red oceans are and where potential blue oceans might lie hidden.
It's a powerful lens for looking at opportunities differently.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you. We've talked a lot about business strategy, but how could this core concept of value innovation simultaneously driving up value while driving down cost, in a broader sense, be applied to challenges beyond business?
Interesting. Like societal problems, education, healthcare, even personal development. Where could we create leaps in value by rethinking the existing trade-offs?
Something to mull over. If you found this discussion helpful and want to go even deeper, we definitely recommend getting the book. Support the authors, W-Chan Kim and Renée Mauborgne.
Absolutely. There's so much more detail and nuance in the full text. We put a link in the description for you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive from BookCast FM.
Where we're always bringing books to life, one cast at a time.